Hello there, it's Neither Movies and welcome to my review of Black Widow. Now just before I get to my review today, just say this. The reason I'm actually recording this on my webcam instead of my camera, which I usually use to record my film reviews or TV reviews, is because my camera is broken. So I'm using my webcam today if you're wondering why things look a bit different than they usually would on a film review or TV review. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into my review of Black Widow. So Black Widow. Black Widow is directed by Cate, Shortland, and stars Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, with Rachel Weisz, David Harbour, and Ray Winstone. And basically, the plot goes as follows. The film tells the story of Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow's quest between Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War. That's basically the IMDb plot synopsis for this film. Don't believe me? Go and check it out on IMDb. That's generally the plot synopsis of the film. And honestly, I probably agree with that. Because I thought this movie was absolutely terrible. I honestly, this movie was so bad in my opinion, and it was just everything I expected it to be, and not in a good way. Like, if you've been watching this channel for a while now, you know I have not been excited for this movie by any means whatsoever. Honestly, I thought the trailer looked rubbish, to be honest. I thought it just looked like a very generic MCU movie, and boy oh boy, was I on the money with this film, because oh my god, it was just terrible in my opinion. And I should say something here. Yes, I'm quite pessimistic about the MCU in general. I don't like quite a lot of MCU films, but some can surprise me. I remember the first time I watched Guardians of the Galaxy, the first Guardians of the Galaxy, I went into it with zero expectations. Honestly, I didn't really care about the film at all, but I came out of it absolutely loving it. The same with Spider-Man Homecoming, I had zero expectations for that film. I ended up really liking it. The same with Spider-Man Far From Home, and the same with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and I'm actually quite enjoying Loki right now. But the thing is though, I was really excited to actually go and watch this movie yesterday. It was the first time I was going to go and watch a superhero movie in the cinema for such a long time. Like, over a year and a bit, almost 2 years when you think about it. But the thing is, though, it just disappointed me in so many ways. And honestly, I just think it's an awful film, I must admit. But anyway, before I go into the reasons why I don't really like the film, first of all, I will admit the film does have a few perks and a few things going for it. First of all, let's talk about the performance of the film. I think Scarlett Johansson is great as Black Widow. I think she's getting probably the best performance she has done as Black Widow in this film. I think she is great in this film, showing quite emotional range, which she's really good in the film. I really enjoyed watching her character. At the same time, though, I also enjoyed watching Rachel Weisz in the film as a quote-unquote mother on Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow in the film. I really enjoyed watching her character. And at the same time, though, the two standouts for me personally would be Florence Pugh as Yelena, who is Black Widow's quote-unquote sister in the film. I think she's great, by the way, Florence Pugh in this film, and I'm really excited to see how the MCU uses her going forward, because I know she's going to be in the Hawkeye TV show, and so I actually really liked her performance in the film. I thought she was actually one of the best parts of the film. I thought she was great, but at the same time, though, my favourite performance in the film comes from the one and only David Harbour, who was absolutely fantastic in this film. Honestly, he gave off my favourite performance. And the thing is, though, I don't think his character is actually written that well, and the reason I actually like David Harbour's character, you know, the Red Guardian in this film so much, is because of David Harbour's fantastic performance. Honestly, David Harbour steals every single scene is in this film. He was my favourite character to watch. He actually had some funny moments as well. Like, there's a lot of comedy in this film which just falls completely flat. But the thing is, though, quite a lot of the comedy of his character actually works really well, and I really enjoyed David Harbour's performance as Red Guardian in this film. And at the same time, this film got a few other perks as well. Like, I do think the opening scene in the film is actually really good. I really like the opening scene in the film. It's quite heartbreaking to watch, but in a really good way, and a really interesting way at that. At the same time, though, I also like the use of the song American Pie by Don McLean in this film. This film actually uses the song American Pie really well, and I really like the use of that in the film. And at the same time, though, I do think the film is well made. I always think all the MCU movies are well made. No matter, even if I don't like the movies quite a lot, I do still think that all the MCU movies are still well made to varying degrees. And Black Widow is no different. It is a well made film. A lot of people have clearly put a lot of time and effort into the film, and you can clearly tell it's got a lot of, you know, quality coming off the screen in terms of the, you know, the production, the way the film's made. And at the same time, though, there are going to be people who absolutely love this film. I mean, there already are. The people online who absolutely adore this film, and I'm so happy for them. You know, just because I don't like it doesn't mean that you shouldn't. Doesn't mean that you should go into this film with low expectations. Maybe you come out with Black Widow whenever you're going to watch it, or maybe you have already watched it, and maybe you absolutely love this film. Honestly, if you do, I am so happy for you, because I don't want to take that away from you if you really like this film, because in the end, I'm just me. I'm just one random YouTuber on the internet, and if you really like Black Widow, then I'm really happy for you, because you found something in the film that I just didn't find. Personally, I thought it was massively flawed, and it just was very underwhelming in my opinion as well. But if you like this film, I'm really happy for you. I'm not taking that away from you. I just wish I felt the same. Because honestly, like I said before, I was actually excited to go and watch this movie yesterday. And I was just surprised by how much it didn't work for me. I was surprised by how much the film genuinely annoyed me. And so, here we go into the rant on this video. The reason why I don't really like Black Widow, or the reasons, should I say, the big reasons why I don't really like Black Widow, because honestly, there are quite a lot. But anyway, like I said before, if you like this movie, that's good for you, I'm really happy for you, but here are the reasons why I don't. First of all, let's start off at the beginning. This movie is completely and utterly pointless, even to the point of where it is in the MCU timeline. The film takes place between Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War, yet we hadn't heard of these events yet. And the thing is though, that's a problem with this film. It's a prequel, so there's so many problems just there within itself. It's pointless and it's filler. And the thing is though, whenever Black Widow is in a dangerous situation, you know she survives. Because the film was saying before Avengers Infinity War, she's in Avengers Infinity War, so you know she survives. So every time she's in a dangerous situation, like she's about to die, you know she survives. So it's kind of sitting there going, yeah, I don't really care what's happening to you in the scene, because I know you survive. I know you're in the next film, in the timeline, in the chronological orders of the film. And at the same time though, the same is about Yelena in this film, you know, Florence Pugh's character. You know, the thing with Yelena, every time she's in a moment of peril and you think she's going to die, I was sitting there going, well, I know you survived because I know you're in the Hawkeye TV show. And it's things like that in the film which really bother me. Just the fact that it's a prequel, that's, you know Black Widow survives in some stage during seeing the film, that there's no sense of peril of these characters, because you know they survive. The only characters I was like, oh, do they survive or do they not, is David Harbour and Rachel Weisz's character. I mean, I'm not going to give too much away, but I could see their storylines go, I could see where the storylines were going from a mile away as well. But the thing is, there's just so many problems like that in the film. The film is pointless. You don't need to watch this film to understand the MCU timeline at all. If you skip this film, in fact, you basically already have in the MCU timeline. So you don't actually really need to watch this film to understand what's going to happen in the MCU future. I bet you don't. Because the thing is, though, like I said, this film takes place between Civil War and Infinity War. So technically, you have already skipped this moment in the timeline when you think about it. So that basically confirms that the movie is pointless, because it takes place between two movies, and yet we hadn't really heard anything about it. And just, it's things like that in the film, like the very end of the film, not to give too much away, just set it to Infinity War, a movie we've already seen. And I just literally sat there at the end of the film going like this. What was the point in that? And honestly, it's set to Infinity War just a little way, like fills in a little plot hole to do Infinity War, and it was just be like, really? What is that seriously how you're going to end this film? You know, the first Black Widow-led film, that's how you're ending it? Seriously? But anyway, let's go on to some of my own problems with the film. And by the way, I've got a lot of big problems with the film. I don't think that's wrong with the film, it's got some really bad storytelling. There'll just be some really intimate moments when in the film, and then something will happen, and a character will be thrown into the scene. It's just like, I'm sorry, where's that coming from? Or like the villains will show up and smell like, what is that? There's just some of the tonal changes in the film are actually done quite bad, and I just really like that. And some of the film has some really bad storytelling, especially for, you know, a series of films that have been around for 10 years now. You think the storytelling would be at a better standard when it comes to this film, but honestly, some of the storytelling in this film is just rubbish. And at the same time, the film has constant references to the Avengers. Honestly, it felt like the person who wrote this film wrote an Avengers film, but then Kevin Feige, the producer of the film, you know, the producer of all Marvel movies, came to them and said, actually, you know what, I want to make this into a Black Widow movie. Make it into a Black Widow script. But so the person who wrote the script for the film was actually a bit salty, like, I want an Avengers film, so I'm going to add loads of Avengers references in there. Because honestly, the amount of Avengers references in this film really got my nerves. Like, I don't mind one or two, because I get, you know, Black Widow's an Avenger in the end, but oh my god, the amount of Avengers references in the film just felt like it wanted to be an Avengers film, but it couldn't. Honestly, I was just sat there going, oh my god, this is, why can we have, why do we have a reference to the Avengers there? Because there's no point. And then it's just got so many references to the Avengers in the film. It feels like the writer of the film wanted to write an Avengers film, did, and then got told they had to write a Black Widow film. Because honestly, the amount of references to the Avengers in the film really got my nerves, and I'm one of those people who just loves a movie that exists on itself. That isn't Black Widow. This, if you hadn't watched any of the Avengers films before, you probably wouldn't understand quite a lot of references to the film. And the thing is, though, there's a lot of references to the Avengers. I'm not joking. It really got my nerves after a while. And at the same time, though, let's move on to many of the big problems with this film. The direction of the film is bland and just not exciting in any way. I love exciting direction in the MCU movie. Like, one of the things I actually like about Thor Ragnarok is that it's clearly a Taika Waititi film. You know, one of the things I actually like about Guardians of the Galaxy, now look back in it, is the fact that it's clearly a James Gunn film. The use of comedy in that film, the use of music in that film and everything, and that's one of the things I like about Guardians of the Galaxy so much, because it's so much fun, and it's so, you can tell it's a James Gunn film. Honestly, I don't really know Cate Shortland's direction, I must admit, you know, the director of the film, I don't really know her direction. I probably couldn't tell in the film, but the thing is though, if you tell me that the same person directed all 3 Captain America films, you know, Captain Marvel, Ant-Man, and this film, and maybe even the first 2 Thor films, I'd believe you. And the thing is, I know that isn't true. I know there's a group of different directors that worked on all those different films, but the thing is though, if you tell me it was all done by the same director, I'll believe you. And that's just something that's wrong with this film. The fact that it just feels like a studio putting out the film again. There's no distinctive direction in the film that really made me go, oh wow, now the direction of the film is so different than it was in the previous, I don't know, Avengers film. And it's just things like that which just didn't make it work for me personally. Moments in the film felt like a Captain America film, and not in a good way. I'm not a fan of those Captain America films because quite a lot of the time it's had bland direction, specifically the first Captain America. I just don't really like that film at all. And honestly, if you told me the same person directed the first Captain America and this film, I believe you, because the direction is just so bland and, you know, not distinctive in any way. I just didn't really like that about this film. I love distinctive direction in films like these nowadays, and things though, you've had the Guardians of the Galaxy, you had Thor Ragnarok, and then you get to this film, you'd want a bit of distinctive direction in there. You want this film to stick out a lot. And the thing is though, it does it in terms of direction as well, which for me personally, as a film buff, is one of those things which really bugs me about this film. And at the same time though, let's move on to another big problem to this film, the villain. Honestly, the villains in the film are absolutely awful. Honestly, they really are. Taskmaster, they kind of build up in a really exciting way. And I know there's a lot of MCU fans out there which are really excited to see Taskmaster. Honestly, Taskmaster is such a disappointing villain. It really is. Honestly, I was watching Taskmaster in the film, like, I really like the way they started off the Taskmaster storyline, must admit. Like, you see Taskmaster watching, you know, moves from, like, Black Widow back in Iron Man 2, and, you know, you watch Taskmaster, you know, studying the Avengers moves and everything, and you're thinking, oh my god, there's going to be some really exciting action sequences in the film, where, you know, Taskmaster doing the moves of, like, I don't know, Captain America, Iron Man, or Hawkeye, something like that. Does a bit, and then it just goes into these really weird fight sequences, which clearly have stunt doubles in, and clearly have moments of CGI in there. And it's just like, what is the point? Taskmaster is such a disappointing villain. And at the same time, though, Ray Winstone in the film, as the villain, is actually laughable in my opinion. There's a couple of moments in the film I actually laughed at that villain, and not intentionally, can I point out. There's no funny moments to that character. I laughed at him because he was so bad. Honestly, he does his Russian accent in the film, like, I'm gonna kill you, Black Widow, and I'm gonna do everything I can to stop you. And I was like, what is this? What is that Russian accent in the film? Honestly, there's no reason he has to be Russian, by the way. They just kind of throw that in there, in my opinion. And at the same time, though, Ray Winstone's performance is awful. It shocks me how bad his performance was in this film. Because, oh my god, and the way they finish off this character, not to give too much away, but it's a villain in the end, so you can get to kind of some sort of dark face in this film. But the thing is, though, the way they finish off this character in the film actually had me laughing in the cinema, because it was so bad. Just such an anticlimactic end to that character. I almost said a spoilery thing there, but I swerved away from it. But honestly, it's such an anticlimactic end to that character in the film. It really is. And honestly, Ray Winstone as a villain in the film is laughable. He's terrible. I didn't care about the character one bit, and actually, there's something in the film where I found it hard to understand what the character was saying because of Ray Winstone's awful, and I mean awful, Russian accent in this film. Honestly, it's absolutely terrible. But anyway, let's move on to even more problems in the film. Another character played by O.T. Fagbenle. I might pronounce his name, I'm going to apologize if I am. I think his name is O.T. Fagbenle. Honestly, his character is literally just used as a plot device to give Black Widow things throughout the film. Literally, he'll just show up with a plane at one point and go, okay, Black Widow, you can have this. Hey, here it is. And it's literally like, his character just shows up out of nowhere throughout the film. And it's just literally like, his purpose in the film is to give Black Widow things. He's on the poster there. He's next to Florence Pugh's character. He's, you know, to the far right of the poster, or the far right for me. I don't know if it's far left for you. But anyway, get the point. O.T. Fagbenle's character, and I might pronounce his name, we'll probably am again, is just rubbish, because he's used as a plot device in the film, and honestly, it gets really, really annoying. And at the same time, though, there was so many other big problems to the film. Like I said before, it's a filler film in the end. So much that it's just filling in the gaps between Captain America Civil War and, you know, Avengers Infinity War, a gap that we didn't really need filled. And that's just the problem with the film. It was just badly planned in terms of when it was released. Honestly, if this film came out after Captain America Civil War, maybe I wouldn't dislike it as much as I do. Because actually, it might be a bit significant for the future events. But the thing is, though, I was just kind of sat there through most of the film thinking, why have we not heard more about this? Because it took place before Infinity War and Endgame. but we haven't heard much about it yet. And it took place before, WandaVision and Falcon Winter Soldier as well, so we're going to get on that, but we haven't heard anything about the events of this film in either of those TV shows as well. So the thing is, though, I'm just kind of sitting there thinking, why haven't we heard about this yet? And it's just, the simple answer is, it was badly planned. Honestly, not to give too much away, if you haven't watched Avengers Endgame, but if you haven't, you're living under a rock, because honestly, that's, the highest grossing film of all time. But the thing is, though, if you haven't watched Avengers Endgame, little spoiler here, Black Widow died in that film. So the thing is, though, this in turn comes out to be a prequel. And so Black Widow's not going to die in this film because she's in Infinity War, and this is movie before Infinity War. And so every time she's in peril, she's not going to die. Same with Florence Pugh's character, because Florence Pugh's character, Yelena, is going to be the Hawkeye TV show coming out later this year. It's just problems like that, and the fact that it is a filler, because it's between two movies we've already seen. And so, like I said before, you could just skip over this movie in the MCU timeline, if you're watching all the MCU movies chronologically, and you wouldn't need to know anything from this film. You might need to know two little things, that's all. And honestly, it's just like, what is the point of this movie? I'm baffled that it got made. I'm baffled the amount of time and the way we had to get to this movie, and just how bland, boring, and just, in my opinion, rubbish this film is. The way we've had for this movie, and the fact that it got made like this, the fact that the direction is sloppy, and it's just not that distinctive, the fact that it is pointless in the end, it's got bad storytelling, the constant references to the events of the film, and just so many things like that. Clear use of CGI, which is something I really didn't expect to say about an MCU movie. Clear use of stunt doubles and fight sequences as well, and just so many things like that. And honestly, I'm baffled by this movie. I'm baffled about how much I don't really like it. I'm baffled about how the fact that they took so long to make it, and Scarlett Johansson spent so much time, finding the script that really got Black Widow's story right. But the thing is, though, I don't think it really did anything like that. This film could have been, a story about Yelena, Black Widow's quote-unquote sister in this film. But the thing is, though, it's not, but it could have been. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be like Black Widow film in the end. And it's just so many problems like that. I could go on and on and on, but honestly, I just thought this movie was absolutely terrible. And I should point out here, I'm not one of those men online who, says a female-led superhero movie is bad because it's centered around a female superhero. I'm not one of those people. In fact, I absolutely love the 2017 Wonder Woman film. I think that's a fantastic film. I think it has a fantastic performance by Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman in that film. And at the same time, though, I also really enjoy Birds of Prey. I actually really like Ocean's 8, which I know isn't a female superhero movie, but it's a female-orientated film. Got a huge cast of female characters in the film. And actually, I enjoy Ocean's 8 for the most part. And my biggest problem with Ocean's 8 actually centers around James Corden's character, which says something about that film within itself. And at the same time, though, I don't just criticize the female-led superhero MCU movies. I mean, I'm not a fan of Captain Marvel either, but the thing is, though, I'm also not a fan of the Captain America films, I'm also not a fan of the Thor films, I'm also not a fan of Iron Man 2 and 3, I'm also not a fan of Doctor Strange, I'm also not a fan of Ant-Man, so you get the point there. I don't just criticize female superhero movies because they're female superhero movies. In fact, I support them. The fact that we're getting films like, Wonder Woman, we're getting films like Birds of Prey, we're getting films like Black Widow, even though it's taken a long time to get it, we are finally getting this film. The thing is, though, the reason I criticise this film is just because in terms of filmmaking. I just think it's bad filmmaking in my opinion in some parts, and at the same time, though, I think it's a pointless film, I think it's a filler film, and honestly, I just don't really like it at all, to be honest. And so, all in all, I could go on and on about why I don't like this film, but I've already done that in length already, and so for that reason, I'm going to say that Black Widow, I'm going to say it's a 3 out of 10. Honestly, you might watch this movie and you might really like it, and I should reiterate that. There are going to be plenty of people that really like the film, there are going to be plenty of people that, defend it to the day they die and everything, and there are going to be plenty of people that, really get into the film and really like it. And if you do, I'm really happy for you. But honestly, I was just surprised by how much the film didn't work for me. And I expected it to work for me on some levels, and it did to a degree, but at the same time, though, there was a lot of problems with the film that I just didn't expect would actually happen. Like, just the fact that it was pointless, the fact that it hasn't changed my perspective of Black Widow's death in Endgame, and I thought it might. I heard from Kevin Feige, who's producing this movie, that this movie was meant to change our perspective on, Black Widow's death in Endgame. It didn't, and just things like that. And honestly, it's just massively disappointing. One thing I haven't even mentioned is a score by Lauren Balfe, which I might pronounce her name wrong, if I am. Honestly, Lauren Balfe's score is rubbish in the film, and I'm a fan of Lauren Balfe's score. I really like his scores for the Mission Impossible films, the latest Mission Impossible films. But the thing is, though, his score for this film was just rubbish. It was all over the place, and it's just so many problems like that in the film. And also, the third act of the film was all over the place. Explosions kept happening, and characters kept running all over the place. I was like, what is going on here? The third act of the film had me really, really bored in the cinema, and honestly, I was really surprised by how much I disliked this film. I really wanted it to surprise me. I was excited to go and see it yesterday, but honestly, I came out so unbelievably underwhelmed, and just Honestly, really disappointed by a film that's been a very long time in the making. And so, all in all, I think Black Widow is absolutely terrible. And I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, what do you think of Black Widow? Please do comment down below and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Anyway guys, thank you as always for watching, and if you haven't yet, please do click down below and subscribe on this video, and look forward to seeing many more both film and TVs come very soon on this channel. See you guys again soon, but bye for now, bye!